Good morning. We're here at DeBell Golf Club in Burbank, California, and this week is going to be all about short game. We're going to be learning how to use wedges around the greens. We're going to be talking about the misconceptions that you've been taught that is the main reason why you still struggle on the golf course chipping. We're going to be talking about chipping fundamentals and pitch shot fundamentals, and by the time this week is over, you should have a really good understanding how to get yourself more up and down around the greens more often. My name is Joaquin Arboso, and this is Swing Solutions. Hi guys, are you guys already at that point in your game where you're completely frustrated with your short game and just things aren't happening the way they should be on the golf course, and we're not getting that ball up and down enough around the golf course, causing tons of strokes to happen? Well, it's probably because of how you were taught how to chip. Some of you take lessons from local golf pros, some of you are self-taught by watching YouTube videos like this one, or some of you are just like to read material in magazines and quick tips on how to get your ball up and down from around the green. But let me tell you, there's three misconceptions that most golf instructors teach their students that is the cause of why today you are still struggling with your short game. And in this video, which is the first part of a three-part series for this week, which is all about short game, today we're going to be discussing those three topics that you hear all the time from instructors that cause you to continue to miss to this day. So guys, before we get into the short game series, make sure you take the time to hit that subscribe button, and after viewing this video, if you like what you see, make sure you hit that like button. It really helps me out and it really supports the channel and all the work I do on my off days. But you're probably wondering right now, what are the things that I have been taught by my local golf instructor, by watching videos on YouTube, or by reading about things in magazines that has caused me to continue to struggle out here on the golf course and not get better at your short game? Well, let's talk about those three things before we dive into each one in detail. Number one, we've probably all heard lead with your left hand. Make sure that on the downswing, you are leading with your left hand throughout the swing. Okay, number two, we always hear ball back in your stance. Make sure it's back in your stance. Try not to have the ball forward in your stance, or you're going to be thinning that ball across the green. And the last one is hit down on the golf ball. Make sure you hit down on the golf ball so that that ball pops up nicely and gets on the green. Well, there's a little truth with all those, but ultimately it's what's causing you to have frustration and continuing to not see success out there on the golf course. Before we talk about chipping techniques and pitching techniques to get you guys feeling more comfortable out there on the golf course and feeling more success, we first have to talk about the equipment that we're using. Now, when we're chipping around the greens, we're normally chipping with wedges, and wedges are completely different than our irons. Wedges have an element called bounce that is associated to them. Bounce is the angle that comes from the bottom of the club up to the leading edge. So if I were to put this club up against my hand, it is the angle coming off my hand up to the leading edge. And you'll notice that the leading edge is not down on the ground like it would be with an iron. Now that bounce does exactly what it's called. It bounces. It bounces off the turf to allow us to hit cleaner shots off the grass and onto the green. So the first thing that is taught to us after we talk about just basic fundamentals of how to set up is make sure you lead with your left hand. Make sure you don't use your right hand to hit that shot. Now what that does is when you lead with the left hand, the shaft of the club is pressing forward towards the target. And when the shaft presses forward towards the target, you are now taking away all the bounce of your golf club. And the leading edge is now on the ground. Okay, and when the leading edge is down on the ground, that is when you're going to start experiencing a lot of chunk shots, and sometimes if you get handsy with it, you're just going to hit at the equator of the ball and the ball just skips right off the green. So we want to make sure that instead of pressing forward with your left hand to promote a left hand lead, we want to be more neutral, in a more neutral position where the ball is just slightly to the right of center to allow the bounce to still play and have an effect on our chip shots. The second thing that is taught to us all the time is place the ball back in your stance, right? And when you say that to a student, the words that you use, you have to be very careful with, because when you say back of your stance, okay, back towards your right foot, what ends up happening, it's at the foot or even further back. And just take a look, if we're trying to utilize the bounce of the golf club and not have the leading edge sit down on the ground, well, what happens when the ball is all the way back here? Okay, I'm naturally going to grip it right in front of me, and now the leading edge is down on the ground, negating all the bounce of the club. And that is going to cause a lot of chunk shots, right? That's why when you hit, you're hitting a lot of the ground trying to go through the shot, and you're unable to go through it cleanly. And the final misconception that you're taught all the time in chipping is hit down on the golf ball. Okay, so let's talk about that. When you have to be, like I said, very careful on what you say to a student. When you say hit down on a golf ball, guess what they're going to do? They're going to do exactly what you say. They're going to hit down on that golf ball. So that ball's already too far back in their stance, their hands are already too far forward, and then now you're telling them a third thing, hit down on the ball. Well, guess what? We're going to be chunking that ball all the time, because that leading edge is going to be digging into the ground, and no bounce is associated with the shot. So in this first video, understand what you've been taught is just completely wrong. Okay, having your hands too far forward, having the ball too far back, making sure you're hitting down on the ball. These are all things that are going to cause you to have frustration and have no success at getting better at hitting chip shots and pitch shots. Now, instead of saying hit down on a golf ball, we have to have the student understand that it's a descending blow that goes through the golf ball. Okay, there's a difference. When you say hit down on a golf ball, that's what a student does. They hit down on a golf ball and create a chunk shot. Okay, but if they have an understanding that it is a descending blow that goes through the golf ball, the chances are much better that they'll understand, and that you will understand, that the club doesn't stop at impact, which is one of the things that causes a lot of chunk shots and that you might be experiencing a lot. And the club is able now to travel freely, allowing the club to be hit with that bounce. So just a quick review on the misconceptions that we've been taught is we don't want the leading edge digging down into the ground. We want to utilize the bounce of the club. The greatest invention for wedges we're not using, and we want to make sure that we use them on the golf course. We want that ball to bounce off the turf. We don't want that leading edge playing a role in the success of our chipping, because you will not have any success in chipping when you do it that way. So make sure that you have these understandings of the misconceptions that you've been taught with your short game. That way we can start moving on to chipping techniques and pitching techniques. So before we get to that video, make sure, if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel. Make sure if you like this video, you hit the like button. And in part 2 of this short game week series, we're going to be talking about chipping techniques and the things that I do that are different than what you saw today, that'll give you a little bit more success on the golf course. And then we're going to wrap it up at the end of the week with pitch shots and how we execute those on the course to get you on the green more often. Okay, take care everyone, and just remember, if you like this video, hit the like button and check out some of the other videos, the one up here and the one up here. And I guarantee that you're going to do much better on the golf course once this week is over and you've gone through the 3-part video on short game. Take care.